You know that feeling of being stuck between a rock and a hard place? It's a classic problem. But what if the rock wasn't quite a rock and the hard place wasn't, well, all that hard? Today, we're jumping into some really fascinating ancient legal puzzles that kind of mess with our whole idea of clear-cut categories. It all forces us to ask one really big question. Right here, this is the heart of it all. At first glance, it seems simple, right? But the more you think about it, the more it challenges how we label and classify, well, everything. And for the ancient thinkers we're about to meet, this wasn't just some fun thought experiment. Getting the category right had some very, very real consequences. So we're going to go back in time and be a fly on the wall for a debate between some of history's sharpest thinkers. They didn't have Google or fancy computers, just raw, powerful logic to untangle these incredibly thorny problems. All right, let's set the stage. This whole discussion is about stuff that exists in a state of transition. Things that aren't quite here, but not quite there either. They're just stubbornly stuck in the middle. And our guide, the guy who's really stirring the pot here, is a scholar named Rabbi Zeira. He's the one who comes up with these two brilliant dilemmas that get right to the heart of the matter and really force his colleagues to think outside the box. So, Rabbi Zeira's first case has to do with an animal offering. It sounds like a practical issue, but believe me, it has this deep philosophical puzzle at its core. Let's meet the star of our first dilemma, the palges sheep. So, what in the world is a palges? Well, it's a super specific term for a sheep in this very narrow window of its life. It's not a baby lamb anymore, but it's not quite a full-grown adult either. Think of it as a teenager sheep. And this timeline just lays out the problem perfectly. See, you have a clear category for a young sheep, a lamb, done. You have a clear category for an adult, a ram, easy. But then you have this 1-month gray area, smack in the middle, the palges. It's pretty much defined by what it's not. And here it is, Rabbi Zeira's genius question. Let's say someone makes a vow, but they give themselves an out. I promise to bring either a lamb or a ram. Then they show up with a palges. Does that count? Can this in-between animal possibly fulfill a vow for one of the clear-cut categories on either side of it? Now, to answer that, the sages first had to figure out what a palges fundamentally is. And their debate, well, it brings to light two totally different ways of looking at anything that's ambiguous. So yeah, let's really zero in on the core of this. Before you can even talk about whether the offering is valid, you have to figure out the identity of the animal itself. Is this palingenesis just in a state of confusion, or is it something totally new? And here are the two main camps. On one side, you have a scholar named Barpada. He basically says, look, it's just a case of uncertainty. The palges is either a lamb or a ram. We just don't know which. But then on the other side, Rabbi Yochanan comes in and says, nope, a palges isn't a maybe anything. It's a definite something else. It is its own unique third category. As if one brain bender wasn't enough, Rabbi Zeira hits them with another one. And it follows the exact same logic, but this time it's about something from the kitchen. Dough. Everybody meet siur. This is dough that has just started to rise. The yeast is working, so it's definitely not that flat, unleavened matzah anymore. But it hasn't puffed up into what you'd call leavened bread either. So once again, it's caught right in the middle. And I bet you can see where this is going. Someone vows to bring an offering of either matzah or leavened bread. Then they show up with this in-between siur dough. Does it work? Does it fulfill their vow? It is the palges problem all over again, just with flour and water this time. And to make it even trickier, get this. The scholars couldn't even agree on the exact moment dough becomes siur. Rabbi Meir said it's when the surface starts to look a little pale. But Rabbi Yehuda had this wild, poetic definition. It's when cracks show up that look like the antenna of locusts. I mean, talk about specific. This just makes the whole thing even more ambiguous. So it all comes back to our central debate. Is siur just a case of uncertainty? You know, maybe it's matzah, maybe it's bread. Or is it something else entirely? Its own special category that is neither one nor the other? So we've got two cases, one with a sheep, one with bread. Both are stuck in this state of ambiguity. The sages argue, they debated, they picked apart every single logical angle. So what was the final answer? This is the moment we've been building up to. After all that intense intellectual debate, did they finally decide? Did the palges and the siur count for the vows? Did they choose a side between uncertainty and a brand new category?
Their final verdict came down to a single, powerful Aramaic word: teku.
And what does techiku mean? It means the dilemma shall stand unresolved. The question remains. There is no answer. They looked at these perfect, maddeningly ambiguous puzzles and just refused to force a simple solution. And this is just so brilliant. This isn't a failure to find an answer. It's a profound recognition of ambiguity itself. The sages basically concluded that the most honest, the most truthful answer was to just let the question stand. Sometimes the wisest thing to do is not to pick a side, but to admit that some things are just complicated. And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? In a world that is always demanding instant answers and clear black and white labels, these ancient debates remind us of the incredible wisdom of teku. They teach us that some things, in science, in art, in our own lives, might just be their own unique category, beautifully and permanently unresolved.